Washington, D.C. And again, man, we're gonna deal with some real good damn truth today, brother. So again, Bobby, oh yeah, before I do anything else, man, I meant to give a shout out, man, to the brother Azariah and those wonderful tapes he's been doing on with that mind control.
Exactly. And I'm quite sure the rest of the scholars out there there's a dabble into this is going to come with their rendition of the future events in Atlanta and some other things. But this is our side, and it's not just that, but we're going to give a whole gamut of this thing. You know, so we want to do that. I want to give a shout out to my goddess, Linda Babylonia. Latin.
Right. And I also want to give a shout out, man, to the wonderful feminine one in my life. I'm grateful, man, to be here at this point in time in life, to be a part of the change, man, and of our people. Yeah. You know, we are being eradicated daily on the things that we eat, the things that we listen to, the things we drink, and we're also being attacked by things that we don't even know exist. And man, again, man, I'm glad to be a part, man, of this version of truth that we're going to bring today. Plus, man, we got some pretty good exclusive too, man, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some exclusive information for you today.
Exactly. While it's in my head, I want to give some little insight on that eating thing. It's been reported that there's well, actually, I was in New York City in January, and I told the people that I'm noticing if I eat in a place that's not black, that's in the black community, there's a difference. Mm-hmm. That is not black, that's in the black community. Mm-hmm. That me and the queen or the goddess always get sick. That's because in the black community, the majority of the places now is not cooked by our people.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
This influx of foreigners, you know, from the 70s, it started really escalating in the 80s and on in the 90s until now we have very little places. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's cooked and manned by our people. So it's interesting here. They have a West End Mall down there, and I was like, you know, and it's all mostly Asian. Mm-hmm. Well, this is also a part of the government control system of the predator nation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Is to put assassins in your community to control what goes in your body.
Right.
So it doesn't really make a difference whether you're vegetarian or whether you're meat eaters. That's one aspect of it, but it does make a difference on who cook your food.
Right.
And it's just like Farrakhan was saying recently, about a year ago. He said, you know, he told the people to quit eating out. Usually he stays home. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So one of the keys here is you must be selective on where you eat in this particular aspect. So I told the people about not about me getting sick, or me and the queen getting sick in the black community. In the black community, every time we eat out. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting here, and there's a place in the West End Mall that's got one black place left. Now, when I came there about 19 years ago when I moved to Atlanta, the West End Mall had all black eateries. Now there's one black place left, and basically everything else that's in there is by Asian. Now, the mystery here is, and whenever we eat at that brother, nothing happens. But the mystery here is, they are assassins. Mm-hmm. Now to show you how much assassin they are, there's an upper mobile or upper scale restaurant in North Georgia. In the northern part of Atlanta, the North Georgia, in the particular aspect of it, is a place called North Point Mall. And by North Point Mall, there's an Asian restaurant that's on the upper echelon. So much that the great black entertainers that moved in that area, Bobby Brown, Whitney Houston, Usher, all of them are eating at this place. Usher, Jermaine Dupri and Janet Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Ludacris,
Mm-hmm.
even Puff Daddy,
Mm-hmm.
who has a restaurant in Atlanta named after his son Justin's.
Mm-hmm.
But these people who ate at these places, these big moguls, big entertainers, come to find out that they were being fed cats and rats.
Mm-hmm.
You see.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the USA Today on how much the government really don't really care on who even knows it. But the point I'm trying to make is that they're gonna, and so what it is not that the black people just so happen to eat there, but that means they was feeding this to white folks in that area, because that's a majority white area.
Right.
The point I'm trying to make here is if they did that to the upper echelon, can you imagine what is happening to the black folks?
Like the common folk.
Are the common folks, are the people that are the victims of the predator nation who's been assaulted and has assault upon them since we got here.
Especially in the inner cities.
In the inner cities.
Especially in the inner
so
cities.
if you see the inner, if they did that with the upper crust, what do you think they're doing to the inner cities? Which means that the upper crust only got a smidgen, a small taste of what was being done in the black community. Now, which is interesting here because they busted they busted a place that was serving cats and dogs from Asians back in 1989 in Atlanta. Now, we know that this is a government conspiracy on this thing because most of the time, other than the one that got busted in 1989, most of the time these places have to go under inspection. So it means that in actuality, it has to be a government conspiracy for this to be allowed in this particular aspect. A lot of work that's done on melanin, that is the key component in the black structure of the body. A lot of work that's done on melanin is done through rat research, as far as white folks trying to see the effects of melanin on them.
Right, you synthesize it.
Yeah, synthesize. They have to go do with the white rat, which the white rat is created in a laboratory. There's no such thing as no white rats that's running around your house.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
For those people who have rats.
Right, we're dealing with a hybrid creature like the white man, like the white man.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? So, but they've done enough research to understand something that has something to do with melanin research. Now, remember now, this is the home of the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, which here goes again as a guinea pig nation for the simple fact you have black children, high school children, that after high school, every day at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, they go to work, good jobs, quote unquote. They go to work at the CDC. Hundreds of black children have jobs, high school children have jobs at the Center of Disease Control every day after school.
What they do?
Well, first of all, a lot of these kids are inner city kids, naturally. They got to check the demographics of who they're doing this to, because they don't want to get too many upper mobile Negroes that start putting this thing together.
Yeah,
Start questioning. So, these particular kids, well, let me give you an example. You asked the question what they're doing. About 10 years ago, a brother came to work on my ex-girlfriend's car at the time, and he was putting in a clutch. And this brother had been a part of it. He was a young brother. He was a young brother in his 20s, but he had been a part of this thing through high school. And we were saying something one day, something about some money. We needed some money for something. He said, oh, well, if you need some money for that, what you're trying to do, I don't know what the conversation was about. He said, I know how we can get some quick money. And I'm like, what? He said, I'll take you to this place I know, and I've been doing it for years. And you just go in there and you take a whole bunch of drugs, and they just monitor you, for a couple of hours and stuff, and you take these drugs and all, and then they cut you a check. So you somewhat get an idea on what is happening to these children in Atlanta. Now, this thing goes all the way back to the Atlanta child murders. And maybe, and not only that, and all the way back to the Tuskegee experiment.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, one guy had done some research that, and I know this about meat. A lot of times, because I remember this started happening when people started wanting them, the people who didn't become total vegetarians, and a lot of Muslims experimented with this. At the turn of last decade, of the early 90s, we start seeing more turkey products come on the market, because not only that, black people were conscious, but white folks were conscious that they didn't want to eat pork anymore. So all of a sudden, what used to be ham, all of a sudden now started becoming all your turkeys, the smoked turkeys, your honey roasted and smoked turkeys, and all these types.
Ground turkey and all that stuff.
All of that type of stuff. And one of the brothers said, well, look, man, you know, they could have done this years ago, because nothing tastes. People love ham and they love bacon and they love all this, but it doesn't taste that way when they get it from the hog. Or nothing really tastes that way when they get it from the animal. They have to cure it.
Mm-hmm. Or process it.
Or process it and stuff. He said, why do you think we are in America now? Because Spain was looking for herbs and spices and was trying to go to India. You see what I'm saying? And got lost and called this India.
Right.
But it's the herbs and the spices. And they cure this thing. Now we know this based on, you got Worthington Factory. Now Worthington, for all the vegetarians, I don't want to get off the thing, but I'll say this. And one of the brothers said, well, you know, that one of the projects of the Tuskegee experiment was that the bacon became a household breakfast meal.
Mm-hmm.
That what made bacon an international bestseller and the choice for the European society was they tested different curing techniques of bacon out on the black experimentees of the Tuskegee experiment. And from the Tuskegee experiment, the formula that would go into curing all bacon,
nitrates and all that stuff,
right, would be the formula that would make bacon bigger than what it was before the Tuskegee experiment. See what I'm saying? And they tested it out on the black men there, and that's where they got the formula that became a worldwide formula, which leads to even the vegetarian community now. For the vegetarians, the first thing you do is, for the people that don't go vegan, they go and they become dependent on veggie burgers, especially soy and these protein, wheat proteins or whatever, protein, these veggie burgers. But one of the keys is the ones that's in the supermarket is very, very popular. It's called Morning Star. And they got grillers, they got black bean burgers, they got a whole line of things. Now they got the Morning Star for the average customer that wants to not eat meat anymore. Then they have the same company, which is called Worthington. They make the Morning Star griller and a whole bunch of products for the domestic consumption of basically grocers, freezers. But they also make a brand that's a step up for health food stores, the Worthington products. So the health food store brand is called Worthington. And they even now, those Worthington products have become a separate part of the same grocery store. You could get the Worthington products. But then again, the Worthington commercial brand, as far as the one that the country would know about, would be Morning Star. Same company. Now, and one of the mysteries here is that Morning Star became popular and beat out most of the competition because they had the ability to make all of their products taste like fish, just like chicken patties, just like burgers, and just like bacon. And they got a sausage that tastes sausage patty that tastes better than the sausage, regular sausage. So it was the ability to fool the people, or the ability to not really fool the people, but to make whatever is the mock version of the vegetarian food that tastes almost like the...
Right, the simulate.
Right. You see, tastes almost exactly like the regular meat products. The key here is Worthington used to be a hog curing factory that had the curing techniques that shut down and went into being a vegetarian type of facility.
Okay.
And the techniques that they used to cure the meats with is what they use to cure the vegetables with, and thus they're the most popular of the vegetarian product companies. But going back, it's all in the curing process, which we know has a lot to do with the Tuskegee experiment. Now that was just one when it came to the bacon, the standard.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But it was other things based on us being guinea pigs that they test things out on. You see what I'm saying? Your best restaurants still to this day have black people cooking in them. You see what I'm saying?
Right. You're right. And you're right. In your best restaurants.
Yeah.
But now, in your neighborhood stuff, you got the foreigners.
Oh, mostly Mexican.
Right. You got Mexicans. You got Mexicans in the restaurants, and then in these carryouts, you got the Koreans.
But this is interesting here, because when the Koreans started infiltrating the communities, black people used to make excuses saying, well, you know, because somebody said, well, they at least could hire black people. And they go, no, it's family oriented, and that's what it's about, making excuses. Or why they didn't hire black people, saying that it's mostly family oriented. But now the norm now is the Koreans run the business, and now they have Mexicans
that's right.
cooking the Korean food,
that's
the
right.
Asian food,
that's right.
the Chinese food,
that's right.
and all of the ones now, the so-called foreigners now have Mexicans cooking the food.
That's right, cooking like the ethnic foods.
Cooking the ethnic foods.
Right. And you right, it's funny you said that, man, because there are a lot of places here in the Washington, Maryland, and Virginia area that do the same thing, right? And everywhere you go, because they even got, look, check this out, they even got the soul food joints now, not just the carryouts. They got soul food restaurants where they're Koreans are running them with Spanish people in the kitchen cooking chillings and pig feet for the niggas still eating that shit.
And the thing about it here is they wouldn't be able to do it if black people were conscious.
Oh yeah.
Now I want to tell people this because I'm well the first thing is I want to continue on this, but I want to tell people based on consciousness, because this has a lot to do with MK Ultra and mind control that we're talking about. I want anybody to understand that in the early 1970s, after 10 to 15 years after the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Muslim movements, the Black Panther movements, and all of the movements of the 60s, black people in the United States, especially in your major cities, were generally conscious people.
Right.
Now we have a documentary to show this, and it's such a dichotomy that would later become, but you can see the documentary to show this, and all you got to do is go rent you a copy of Watt Stacks. Was that the name of it?
Watt Stacks.
Watt Stacks.
Okay. I say about right.
Remember Watt Stacks with Isaac Hayes? It was the motion picture of a great concert commemorating the 10-year anniversary of the L.A. Watts riots. Right. It's called Watt Stacks. Right. And in that documentary, if you study it, it starts off with Richard Pryor. But in that documentary, they go into the neighborhoods of Los Angeles, and 90% of the people have some form of consciousness, social consciousness, and awareness. Right. You see what I'm saying? And it's documented. Right. In there, which would later on be the battlegrounds for the Crips, the Bloods, and all of the drive-by shooting, and all of the most horrific forms of our plight in the late 80s and the early 90s. And early to mid 90s. And you would think that these people was born in Dodge City. You know what I'm saying?
And not only them, but young people around the country, period, doing the stuff that they're doing now.
Right. The point I'm trying to make here is for somewhere between 1973 when they filmed the movie and 1989, 1987, 1993, you had a total different people.
Totally.
So you're talking about some type of mind control, MK Ultra. We're going to get into that. But going back to this particular thing based on the assassins of the food, is we have the underground Atlanta, down in Atlanta. It's a part of the old downtown that they covered over and built another downtown on top of. And part of it that is left is the underground, which has restaurants, stores, and nightlife. They remodeled it because it was real popular in the 70s. They remodeled it in the 80s, and by 89, they opened it up again. They had something like 60 or 70,000 people pass through that underground area. But for some reason, it always goes back to mostly black customers and a black hangout. And that is because they had an auction block down there, slave auction block down in that underground, and the spirits down there won't let it stay white but for so long. So it opened in 89, and for about 5 to 6 years, it was a main tourist attraction in Atlanta. And then all of a sudden it became back black, and by 98, 99, it was about to go bankrupt, and they was looking for buyers. And Disney was going to buy it because Disney was going to do the same thing there in which they did in Harlem. You see what I'm saying? In which they did in Harlem. For some reason, they didn't. Harlem was a little more prestigious, and everybody wants to, deal with things in Harlem. And this so-called urban renewal aspect was in Harlem, based on the architecture in Harlem. They want to retake Harlem back. So they had a reason for Disney moving in, and Starbucks and everybody else. But that particular area here, they're trying to get